While Skylar and Junior are obsessed with the donation counter on SaveWalterWhite.com, Walt hits up Saul demanding to know where Jesse's at. Dude's on a mission. So Mike drives Walt to this rundown spot they call the shooting gallery. Against Mike's advice, Walt goes up in there, finding Jesse knocked out cold. Walt's on a mission to get Jesse up out of there, but Jesse, in a stupor, admits to thinking he's the reason Jane's gone. Walt, usually cold as ice, feels that hit of conscience, seeing Jesse break down in tears. Yeah, I think Walt feels bad for this.
You think so?
I guess. But I think he feels bad. I think he feels bad that this is happening to Jesse. He feels bad for Jesse in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he feels bad for letting Jane die. I think that what ends up happening is what he wants to happen.
Yeah.
In the end.
Yeah.
Like, when he's standing there, those seconds while Jane's dying, when he looks like he's like realizing something, I think this is exactly, this is going to get Jesse to go to rehab. I'll be able to help Jesse if Jane isn't near him.
Mm-hmm.
And he does. I think he feels bad that Jesse is this down bad right now.
Walter sits in the show in kind of like a unbelievable position where the shit that he does rarely affects him or his people.
Yes.
Like
the people he cares about.
Yeah. Nobody in his family, no one in his personal circle, at least not till season 5, starts season 3?
Hank catches a lot of bullshit because of Walter.
Okay. Yeah. I was thinking more about Hank's death, but that's a good point.
Hank almost dies in season 3 because he catches Walt's bullshit.
But this is probably the most directly it hits someone who Walter cares about. And I am in the camp who believes that Walter cares about Jesse. Even if he doesn't treat him the best, I think he cares. But like, I agree with you. I don't think that Walter feels sorry for Jane dying because he's not really one to like feel sorry for people dying. Like he cries after he kills Domingo. All right. He doesn't really react to killing Emilio. That's more like self-defense.
That's self-defense. And, I don't think anybody blames him for killing Emilio.
Yeah. Domingo is more like self-preservation. And then Jane is kind of the same way. But she's like essentially a stranger to him, except that Jesse really cares about her. So I think that that's kind of things hitting home a little bit. And that's why he's feeling bad for Jesse in this situation.
In watching this scene, it's hard for me to even think about how Walt feels. By this point, it's hard for me to care how Walt feels. Like, I'm sure I can see that he feels bad, and I'm sure that he has some remorse and he has some guilt for how Jesse is right now. But Jesse is the one that I feel bad for in this. Jesse is the one that your empathy reaches out to, in my opinion.
Mm.
He's bawling. I loved her more than anything and shit, dude. Like, It's real hard not to feel really bad for Jesse Pinkman in this scene. Like, holy shit.
Even Walt feels bad.
Yeah, like this is rough. This is rough. This is the most down bad that Jesse's ever been in his entire life.
And on that point, like on that note, and kind of speaking to your point, because for season 2, we see an evolution of characters. Like, no one is static for this season.
Hell no.
No one. Not Skylar, not Hank.
Everybody goes through massive changes in season 2, I think.
So when you think back to Jesse's other worst week ever, it was during the episode Down, and at the end of that episode, Walt didn't care.
No.
Like, Jesse tried to explain to him what had happened to him that week that was the reason why I'm here in this RV. Like, I understand how it looks. I know you told me not to do this, but my parents, they're being assholes. Walt doesn't even hear him out. He just keeps yelling at him.
Until he gets caught in the mouth.
Yeah. And it takes the rest of the season and something like this to happen in the season finale for Walter to finally give a fuck about how Jesse's feeling, because based on all prior evidence, no, Walter doesn't care about Jesse. So I'm not saying that I think Walter always cared about Jesse. I'm not even saying that he cares about Jesse for most of this season. But I do think that probably starting at maybe around the tail end of the previous episode, Walter starts caring about Jesse. And when he decides to let Jane die and he starts crying over it, I think that he is considering Jesse.
You think he's crying for Jesse?
Yes. I don't think he's crying for Jane at all. So like, yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with you mostly. But I do think that that Walt does care, and Jesse is not coping well. And I know that, yeah, he sees this as an opportunity to get Jesse into rehab, but I don't think that Walt in a million years expected for Jesse to end up in a drug den, just
Strung
like,
out on heroin.
yeah, for however long that's been happening. Because obviously he's had Walt, or he's had Saul. I keep calling Saul Walt. Obviously he's had Saul looking for Jesse for a minute, just given the fact that like Saul calls him or he calls Saul back, however that happens, and he's like, if you found him, give me the address. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Jesse's been missing. So no, I don't think that he's expected this. And he's gone way off the deep end. And it kind of corrects a misconception that I had about Jesse's rehabilitation, where I felt like, or I thought that Jane dying gives Jesse the initiative to go and check himself into rehab.
Mhm.
But no, he's like forced
Mhm.
into rehab by Walter, which says a lot to me about about Jesse's ability to cope with Jane's death. I think that without Walter, Jesse would have killed himself anyway.
Yeah. I personally don't think Jesse makes it through this series anyway. Like the Breaking Bad verse.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Jesse lives a year after El Camino.
Really?
Yep.
Like realistically,
Yes,
why do you feel
realistically, because so much shit has happened to this dude over 2 years that he never dealt with. And even in El Camino, it's nothing but trauma.
that way? Yeah.
He gets out to Alaska and is sitting alone with his thoughts in Alaska for how long before he can't take it anymore?
Ooh, but I mean, according to the showrunners, he's got Brock with him.
Why?
That's that could be a reason to live.
Yeah, that's the reason to live, but like, why? How does he get Brock?
I don't know.
Why isn't Brock with his grandma?
I don't know. I know, right? Why would she give custody of Brock over to this
dude?
She's seen him on the news. He's wanted. He's a wanted man.
Yeah. I feel like Jesse having Brock is just like
some icing that they put on at the end.
It's like the fucking showrunners fan casting, or like their fan fiction or whatever.
Yeah,
it's like how they want it to end. It's what Aaron Paul and Bryan Cranston want for Jesse Pinkman. But that is completely unrealistic, bro. He was already real broken up about Jane. He never gets over Jane. He never gets over Andrea. He has nightmares about Walter. He has nightmares about Drew Sharp. He thinks about Mike all the time. There's no way that Jesse lives with all that guilt and just shit on his shoulders. There's no way.
He doesn't just off himself.
Yeah, I really don't see it. And even in Alaska, they're looking for him. I mean, Saul Goodman tries the same fucking change my identity and escape shit, and they find him eventually. Jesse either dies or goes to prison, bro. He doesn't survive very long after El Camino. I don't think. I don't think at all. Unless he's like living out in the woods as like a fucking mountain man now or some shit.
Well, all right. Since we're talking about end of the series, Jesse, I'd like to bring something. I'd like to revive an old conversation that we had now that season 2 is over. Jesse is a tortured character.
The whole show.
The whole show. But the worst of it, the worst times that he has is in season 5 and season 2. And honestly, I feel like season 2 Jesse is the worst off. Like,
no, I don't.
What's so much worse about, because Jesse goes through so much more. What happens in season 5 that makes
meth slavery? That's enough. You are now a slave to this band of white supremacists.
Being human trafficked.
Yeah, you're a slave to these white supremacists, and when you tried to leave, they took you to your girlfriend's house and made you watch her brains get blown out, and then took you back to go make more meth. Like, and that would have been his life until they decided to kill him if Walter hadn't shown up. Again, if Walter hadn't shown up, Jane would probably still lived.
Mm-hmm.
Season 2 has a lot of bad things happen to Jesse, but he recovers from all of them.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but yeah, and you feel like he wouldn't recover from the
Season
season
5, if not
stuff.
for somebody coming to save
But-
him, he was dead. He was dead.
But by the end of season 5, he's free. He's
Only
free.
because of Walter.
Yeah, but like, all right, so season 2, Jesse is a lot of bad things. So season 5, I feel like a lot of bad things happen to Jesse as a result of his life being manipulated. Season 2, Jesse, everything that happens to him, he blames himself for, rightfully so. From being like thrown out by his parents, being homeless for a week, damn near like
He doesn't blame himself for that. That's his parents' fault. I don't think he starts blaming.
He does blame his parents.
I don't think he starts blaming himself for stuff until
Jane dies.
Yeah,
he blames himself for Combo's murder.
Yeah, to an extent, you're right.
Not even to an extent. He doesn't go to the funeral. And I think it's because he thinks it's his fault and he doesn't want to show his face in front of Combo's loved ones.
You're right. Combo's another one that probably haunts him while he sits up in Alaska.
But season 5 are a lot of things that happen to him that are outside of his control. And I understand how that can feel worse, but I think it depends on who you are. Jesse's not really the type of person to blame himself, or take responsibility for putting himself in situations that...
Not in season 2, but by season 5, Andrea's death is on Jesse. That's Jesse's fault. We can blame Jane on whoever the fuck else we want to if we don't want to blame Jesse, even though it's, his fault that she got back on drugs.
Remind me how Andrea's death is Jesse's fault.
Because Andrea dies specifically because of retaliation, because they catch Jesse trying to escape the white supremacist compound. They catch Jesse trying to escape, and as punishment, take him to Andrea's house and make him watch Todd kill her.
Yeah, that's garbage. It's hard to call for me. And I know meth slavery
is the worst, bro. He recovers from everything else. He's homeless for like a week, 2 weeks, maybe. He gets on heroin with his girlfriend. That's bad, but like not you're a slave bad.
All right, those are all good points. It's like they just keep escalating. They won't let off.
No, he doesn't get a break. He doesn't get a break.
But this, like watching this act absolutely put me in the mind. Like, I've never seen Jesse in a worse emotional state.
Just wait till we get to season 5.
All right.
Just wait until Andrea dies. It's worse than this.
Yeah, this conversation will happen again. Absolutely.